The Alchemist vs. Madlib, two legends of sampling. But what happened when both flipped the exact same sample? Well, today we're putting their beats side by side to see who came out on top. You're about to watch a level of sampling skill that you may have never seen before. So let's settle this once and for all and find out who sampled it better. In this video, we're going to break down how both of these legends made beats using the exact same sample, the different techniques they used, plus some key sampling ideas that you can use for your own beats. Now, the Alchemist and Madlib have always respected each other's beats. Over the years, they've both showed love to each other, and these beats that they made with this sample showed exactly why. So to start, let's look at the sample itself. This has actually been used by many producers like Q-Tip, S1, Odyssey, and many more. But when we break down these beats, you'll see that it's the Alchemist and Madlib whose beats stand apart. Let's start by looking at Madlib's beat, which is from way back in 2003. Here we see classic chopping and sampling techniques that you don't really see in the modern day. Let me explain what I mean. Nowadays, you can load up a sample and start stretching and repitching the sample to get the exact sound that you want. But this is only possible with modern sampling technology. In the past, you were stuck with the sample as it was, and you only had some really basic sampling technology. Where if you wanted the sample to be at a faster BPM, for example, you were stuck with this sped up high-pitched version of it. And if you wanted a slower BPM, you were stuck with this lower pitched version of your sample. Yes, as a side tip, these are actually ideas you can use if you want to mimic how these old school beats sound. But looking at Madlib's beat, starting off, he begins by speeding the sample up slightly, so it ends up sounding slightly higher pitched as well. Now, Madlib is known as the loop digger, finding incredible loops inside of samples to turn them into beats, but here we actually see him doing a lot of chopping and rearranging for his beat. And when we listen to the sample itself, you can kind of hear why. The sample is full of these slow moving chords that play for a longer time, which might not make for the most exciting beat if this was simply just looped. So here's what Madlib does to bring some energy to his beat. These are the first chops that he uses to make his beat, and we can see he jumps from this part of the sample to over here. And this is actually a chopping strategy that you can think about using when you're stuck trying to find pieces that work with one another. As soon as you find that first piece of the sample that catches your attention, like Madlib does here, start combing through the parts of the sample after this and play them back and forth with your first chop that you like. You'll notice that some don't sound as satisfying or don't help you build the type of feeling or idea that you want with your beat. But if you just keep going, you should eventually find the piece of the sample that does work and does build what you want. And this is the pattern that Madlib builds with his beat. But right after this chop, you'll notice yet another useful idea if you sample as well, which is that Madlib just chooses to let this chop continue to play. Often when I see newer producers sample, they tend to make tons of micro chops and piece together these really complex collages, thinking that this is what real producers do. But here, as you can see, Madlib is making far less chops than you might think he would. Now, at one point, Madlib does add in one new chop here, where the sample jumps back and repeats this piece of the sample. And the reason he seems to do this is to create a consistent rhythm with his loop. When we listen to how this beat would sound if he didn't do this, by no means is this wrong or does this ruin the beat or anything. But you can see in the first bar, he creates a chopping point here, and this creates a particular rhythm that we get used to. And And so after this, he creates a chop at that exact same point in bar 2 and maintains the same rhythm that was established in bar 1. Now after this, the next chop he uses is this one, which is the part of the sample that plays immediately after that last chop that we just saw. And as you can hear, this piece of the sample already follows that same rhythm that he established earlier, where the sample itself already has a note that plays with that same rhythm. But at the end of this bar, we do see something new. We get these 2 new chops being added in. This seems to be somewhat of a stylistic choice by Madlib because his loop would still work without these chops, as you can hear. But nonetheless, after this, for the 4th and final bar, he goes way back earlier on in the sample to use this piece here. And notice the same rhythm gets created for this section of his loop as well. And so with his 4-bar loop complete, Madlib then adds some simple drums, cranks up the swing, and his beat is done. Next, let's look at the Alchemist beat that he made using the sample, where he used it for Freddie Gibbs' Something to Rap About.
I let them crackers take control of me. Served a piece, Caprice ain't got no heat, man, it was cold, G.
And here we see the Alchemist using a minimalist beat making approach, one that he's been using more often in the recent years. But there's more going on in this beat that you might not have noticed. First, this is the section of the sample that the Alchemist chooses to loop. And for many producers, they might get the impression that this minimalist approach to beat making means that all you have to do is grab a sample, loop it up, and then walk away because your job is done. But you still have to make a balanced beat, one that actually makes sense. And when we listen to the loop as it is, you can hear this sounds imbalanced. It's lacking brightness in the high-end frequencies, and so here is what the Alchemist does to address this. He takes this bright hi-hat here, and he layers this to work perfectly with his sample. This introduces more brightness into the beat, helping it sound more balanced and complete, but there's one important idea that I want to point out here. On the surface, it's easy to look at this and think this is just lazy. All you have to do is simply take this hi-hat and layer it on top of the loop like so, and then you're done. But take a listen to what happens if you just simply do this. The hi-hats from the sample and the added hi-hats are just out of sync, and the beat ends up sounding weird and off. To get this to line up, some really painstaking, detailed work is required. You can see some hi-hats have to be placed exactly on time and quantized, some have a slightly late placement, some are just far later than others. All of this extra unfun work is needed to get this beat to actually work. It's definitely not an easy or lazy approach to beat making here. After this, some thin snares and kicks are added onto the beat, again to keep this minimalist aesthetic, but to ensure the beat is actually still a beat. Then to keep this beat from sounding repetitive, the Alchemist finds different chops and pieces from the sample to build different loop variations. Here is one. This idea works perfectly with the main loop because the Alchemist actually just uses the piece of the sample that plays right before the main loop. And then we have this other variation where the Alchemist actually grabs yet another piece of the sample, but this time he layers his own strings into the beat, which actually sound perfect with the sample. And that is how the Alchemist made his beat. But before you decide who sampled it better, how about I see if I can compete against these two icons? Let me try to put a beat together using the same sample, and you can let me know whose beat you like the best in the comments, or whether I made a complete fool of myself. So you might think that this is cheating, but the first thing I want to do is use stem splitting. This will help me unlock a lot more ideas and not have to worry about drums or other sounds getting in the way. Now, I like the area of the sample that Madlib used here. I have this idea of using these guitars but pitching them way down. That way I can use them as chords for my beat, which will be helpful since I don't know music theory. So let's do exactly that. Now I'm going to start combing through these auto chops and see if one of these chords jumps out to me that can spark an idea. Alright, for some reason, this sound is really pulling me in. Not at all what I was looking for, but there's something about this sound here that just makes me want to use it. So let me start by using this as the first layer for my beat. This is basically going to work as ear candy in the end, but what's also really useful about this layer is that it will also provide a sense of rhythm. Alright, a little bit of a side quest there. Let's go back to the original plan and find some chords to start this beat. So I really like how this chord sounds. Next, let's find a second chord that sounds like it works with this one. And to do this, I'll use the same approach that I showed earlier in Madlib's beat. First, let's try this piece of the sample here. Doesn't quite work. Let's keep looking. That's not it either. This one next. Nope. How about this one? Okay, that just sounds perfect. So let's place these two chops together and hear how this sounds along with that first layer of ear candy. This feels like a great starting point for a West Coast beat, so let's give that style of beat a shot. Not a genre I have much experience making, but I do listen to it a lot, so we'll see what I can do. First things first though, I do feel like the sample needs a bit more thickness to it, so let's do some layering before we move on. I think a Fender Rhodes would work perfectly for that job. Next, let's layer this into the beat by figuring out what the sample is doing. We'll do that by finding out what notes are actually playing in the sample. And then I'll just grab these notes and clean up the ones that I don't need. And then I'll just bring these notes into my beat to create a perfect layer that just follows exactly what the sample is doing. Now the beat feels more wide and has a little bit more color, helping it feel just a little bit more full. Next, since I want to make a West Coast beat, let's get some West Coast sounding drums. Let's start with this clap here. A quick tip, if you like the way your clap sounds but it just feels a bit too thin in your beat, like this. Try copying and pasting the exact same notes but play it at a lower pitch. Now it sounds much more full. From here, lots of West Coast beats like using traditional percussive sounds that come from the TR-808, so let's grab some of those, like this cowbell here for example. But when you use percussive sounds like this, you might actually need to be careful. It might not seem like it, but these sounds are actually somewhat musical. You can hear at this pitch the cowbell just doesn't seem like it fits the beat right. And when we take a look at what note the cowbell is playing, you can see here that it is a G sharp. So to fix this, let's look at the pattern that we pulled from the sample. You'll notice here we don't have a G sharp, which could explain why the cowbell doesn't feel like it fits in our beat. So here's what I'm going to do. I'll look at what notes do exist in this pattern, and you can see the root note down here is an E. So let's try to retune and repitch the cowbell so that it's at an E and see if that sounds good. So we'll drop this down a few semitones. And now we have an E. And if we play this alongside our sample now, it sounds perfect. Next, let's bring in a triangle, which is another common West Coast sound that you hear in these beats. But again, we have the same issue. This doesn't really feel like it's fitting in perfectly. So let's run through the same process again. Here we see that our triangle is playing at an F and a D sharp. And again, if we look at our samples pattern, we don't have either of these notes in here. So let's just simply try repitching the triangle as well. We'll crank this dial up a bit. All right, and now when we take a look, we can see this is at an E and a G, which again, looking at our actual pattern, are both notes that are in our sample, which is helping this repitched triangle fit perfectly. From here, let's bring in some more typical drums like a kick and a hi-hat. Nothing too special here, just some more West Coast sounding drums. Now all that's left is a bass line. For a West Coast beat, I'm going to use a synth bass, something that has a little bit more color like this. And since this beat is playing at a faster BPM at 92 right now, I'm going to build my bass line using shorter notes to make sure I don't overcrowd the beat too much. This is something that I talked about in a recent video of mine actually. So if you struggle to build bass lines, then make sure to check out this video that's right next to me where I give you a framework for building perfect bass lines that will work with any sample that you choose. But that is my beat. Let me know whose beat is your favorite in the comments. If you enjoyed this and you want another Who Sampled It Better video, watch this other one right next to me. It's one of the all-time greats. So yeah, click one of these. Do it.